You are now tuned to BS3 Network.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen?
Hey.
You have joined Perspective. This is a safe place. This is a truth place.
Safe.
Yes, the premise of our platform and our program is found right there in the name, Perspective. This is a place where different perspectives, different ideas, opinions, points of views, lived experiences are shared on various topics within the community. One of the things that we always want to highlight is that just because you do not agree with someone's position, their opinion, their perspective, their perception on something does not make them wrong or right, doesn't make you wrong or right. It just simply makes the perspective, the idea, the thought different. And if we can listen for understanding on differences, that ultimately brings us closer together. And when we have understanding, we're closer together, then we're stronger and better. And that is always our premise and our goal here. So we'd like to bring the heat. We want it to be controversial, but we want you to understand that at the end of the day, y'all just have a difference, and that doesn't make anyone good or bad, right or wrong, cute like me or ugly like someone else. So with that being said, let's keep that in mind as we go forward. Man, we want to just open up and say salute to to our viewers, because man, they keep it rocking up in the comments. So if you're watching for the first time, welcome. Make sure that you get into our comments. Don't be afraid to share your perspective, share your ideas, make your comments, and whatnot. So with that, we'll open up we like to go through our comments and welcome individuals that are joining us. So we'll start off with Ben Sutter the third. If you hadn't noticed, you see that BS in that 3. So he puts the BS3 in the BS3 network. He says, can you support BS3 network by sending stars? Stars help us earn money to continue building the network. And he thanks you. Also, Alexis Butler.
Hey, Alexis. We missed you.
Back. Yes, absolutely. For those that don't know, I'll just let it be known that is my baby bird right there. So always love to have her in the building. And she said, okay, intro. She's usually busy, so I think she hadn't caught that much. Facebook user says, oh yeah, we back. Indeed we are. Mr. J. Gilliard, that's my BFF.
My man.
There you go. I'll be fighting over it. Say we back, indeed. So let's get into it.
Okay, now they talking. They're gonna moderate them comments for us. They got it.
Ready. So if you were here last week or if you weren't, we just like to update you that the topic, you see it scrolling down on the bottom. What is toxic masculinity? And is it even real? So we had 2 guests on last week that we really thank them for being on. So shouts out to Mika Baldwin of Queen 3 and King. She's a co-host on that. And then also Justin Caraway, who is the co-host on Elevate. Queen 3 and King comes on Tuesdays at 7, if I'm not mistaken. And then on Thursdays before our show at 7 p.m. is Elevate, where Justin co-hosts. So make sure you take an opportunity to go check out those sometime. You can find that on the BS3 network as well. With that being said, they were here. They contributed to the conversation about toxic masculinity, and we kind of went over the definition of toxic masculinity.
Let's review the definition, because okay. I don't think we really just dug deep. What's the definition one more time? Because from my perspective, see what I did there? From my perspective, toxic masculinity is when men use their masculinity in a toxic way, like being aggressive or being violent, like or intimidating. Right? Like that's going to be toxic. And so we kind of got into it like last week because we couldn't see eye to eye on that thing. And has your perspective changed or not?
No, and that's the beauty of it. I think no, I don't, because that's I challenge all.
Because that is toxic though. Like if you trying to beat on me, that's toxic.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think that's just a person that beats on people.
So what you're saying is toxic masculinity does not exist. That person is just an abuser.
Exactly.
Can we agree that abuse is wrong?
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, then we got the same perspective.
No, absolutely.
I'm not mad at getting rid of another label. So
see, no, that's the thing. That's exactly what I mean when we use that. But individuals will take that label. For example, toxic masculinity, and it's really just a man being a man, having values, setting standards, putting boundaries on what he will allow and what he won't allow in his life based off of what he has deemed how he will maybe run his household, or maybe how he will live his life, what he will endure, what he will entertain, and what he will fool with. And by being that, even just being stoic in a way, he will be labeled as toxic, as a toxic man, or given the label of toxic masculinity.
Let me jump in. Let me say this. I think what you just described is a man who is assertive.
Exactly.
I think what you just described is a man who is going to lead his household. I think when people are saying toxic masculinity, based on what I read, it's about violence. It's about intimidation. It's about coercion. It's about manipulation. You didn't say any of those words. So I don't think the man that you described would be toxic.
But I'm telling you, I'm gonna say it. Women, there's a group of women that would describe what I just described as a toxic man, a toxic man, because he says no, we're not running with that group of individuals because they operate in this way, they dress this way, they conduct themselves in this way, and that is counter to the values and the principles in which I hold myself and those that are under my responsibility and are connected to me. They don't align with that. And so I'm cutting that off. And they'll be like, you can't cut off. Why are you going to cut off Cheryl? Why are you going to cut off Betty? Well, Betty got to go. Betty's not welcome in my home.
Betty can't even come over?
Well, for me, now we're talking about just me as a man. Because I'm saying, I believe people bring certain energies and spirits and I don't want them over.
I believe that too. Yeah. Okay. I'm not mad at that. I don't think that's toxic. Slightly controlling, but not toxic.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Anytime toxic masculinity is thrown out, as soon as, and to me, on the simplest level, as soon as a man put his foot down about something for himself or within his sphere, then he's a toxic. That's toxic masculinity, and that's where the problem is. But originally, now, on the academia world, when they talk in the world of psychology, when they talk about
that's my word.
Toxic masculinity, the definition is it refers to a set of harmful and restrictive social norms that place undue pressure on men to conform to a narrow definition of masculinity.
Right. Now, I remember that.
Now, the thing is, when something sounds too damn complicated, then it's a problem with it. And I have a problem with that definition.
Okay, hold on. What? So hold on. Go back to the definition. You said it's a set of characteristics that force a man to act in a way that is deemed masculine. Is that what you're saying?
Well, in a very narrow set of standards. And I'm finna ad lib.
Okay.
So here's the layman's terms, because I dug into this quite a bit, right? Basically, all of the aspects of manhood that society, women deem this is harmful, we're putting the pressure of men to act in that way. So really, a man acting like a man is toxic masculinity.
Hold on, we're gonna hit the comments, and then this is where I think we be having our disagreement. Okay, hit the comments.
Okay. So basically, toxic femininity exists as well. Well,
say more about that. I don't think I disagree. Say more about that, sis. Oh, let me read this one. So Zahaya, this is my baby.
Oh, hey, Zahaya.
Yeah, the graduate. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Congratulations, sweetie.
Yeah, she says a man can present boundaries because they are important, but depending on how it is presented, depends on if he has toxic characteristics. I think that's what I'm saying because I like a good boundary.
Sweet.
I like a good boundary now.
Alexis says, I think the group of women you're talking about are not the bright, or not that bright, or don't respect their man per se.
That's what I'm saying because I don't think the women that I'm picturing in my mind, the women that I hang out with, I don't think we would call the man that you describe toxic.
I agree with that. But see, usually some people speak louder than others. People, we know that out there in social media, there are platforms that are dedicated to the destruction, to the emasculation of men in every facet. They're talking about men need to be more soft because it gets very complicated. I'm gonna tell you, as a man, they want you to be, they want you to Hulk smash if they're in danger. But if they're in their feelings about something, then I need to be soft and sit down and be like, what's going on, baby? What's the problem?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Then you want me to gossip with you. Then I need to be tender with the children, and I need to discipline in a certain way. And I'm like, listen, I consider myself a Renaissance man. I feel like I'm definitely in tune with a softer side of myself. I definitely can demonstrate some empathy, sympathy, some compassion, some softness when it's necessary. But on the most part, man, I'm a silverback, and that's what it is.
Hi, Facebook user. Hello. How you doing?
So with this break, I think we addressed all the comments. We're going to bring in a guest.
We have a wonderful, wonderful guest.
So as we mentioned before, we had two guests, and so we had one of them return. We had one. Well, hold on, and then I think we have another one coming up soon. So they'll be coming in periodic ways, so people won't be alarmed. So we're going to bring in our next guest, Mr. Justin Caraway.
What's happening, good people? How is everyone?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. Sorry for the tardiness. Please forgive me.
No, man, we all grinding and hustling around here. You're here now, so we're gonna dwell on that. We won't dwell on nothing else. So thank you for being here.
No problem. I definitely wanted to comment on what you said about, how they want you to be, in my opinion, I always say they want you to be Superman first, Clark Kent second. Mm-hmm. You have to deal with a whole bunch of BS, and then they want you to soften up, be, understanding, be compassionate. But you got to deal with a lot of BS to begin with. So you have to have your cape on and be ready to show her that I earned that right to be soft with you, which doesn't make sense to me, but I digress.
Doc, you got something on that?
Can you say more about what's the BS you got to go through? I wanted to agree, but hold on.
Be real with him, Justin.
So usually what happens, and especially with this topic, you guys already go into it looking for a man that's going to, so you can label a man as toxic or toxic masculinity. And what I mean by that is, he's a man's man, or he ain't soft enough. Just like what Eric was saying, he's not soft enough. He doesn't give me the compassion that I'm looking for, or whatever. Well, for us as men, we have to feel comfortable enough with you to be able to put our guards down to actually show that. So a lot of times you're dealing with a woman, you're coming in trying to fix things that have already been broken by another man, or she could be part of the reason those things are already broken in her life. So you have to almost like build her up and then mold and be soft with it.
I'm not going to discount your perspective because I feel like you have definitely experienced that. And I do agree, we have to be a soft place for you to land. I teach my clients that. I practice that in my house. Like, no one's going to come to you bleeding and then you looking at them like, What? Like, so I get that. I'm here for that. I support that. But the first part of it, when you said we're coming into it wanting to label somebody, I wasn't feeling that. Say more about that, because I do want a man's man. Well, I have a man's man. Like, I like that. Like, build me something, fix the car, like do all of that. And I understand that comes with you having an opinion, but I just don't think that's toxic. I think we're saying two different things.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that, believe it or not, I actually think that you're right along with me and Eric's, even from last week. I think you're right there with us in regards to toxic masculinity is really non-existent. You just have, like I said last week, a-holes and non-a-holes. That's just really what it is. We just got away from it and gave it a pretty title as toxic masculinity.
They gave it a title. I'm telling you.
Yeah, there you go.
Group of
feminists people in my profession love their labels. So it'll be a new label next year, I promise.
Yeah. And really will hold on to it and really, and they're entitled to their thought, but they shouldn't, but don't be upset when I'm coming and I'm telling you this is my thought on it. Because when you talk about the things that I've heard over time in conversations with women, when they describe toxic masculinity, like soon as a man put his foot down, raises his voice and say, I'm not playing now. Stop that going on now. I'm not doing that. And we're not doing that. Oh, you toxic. I'm not toxic. I'm a man. I'm being a protector. I'm being a problem solver, probably solving something that you can't even see yourself. Right. You admit that you don't know, because women have a hard time admitting that they're wrong.
We do. I'm going to go ahead and agree with that. But let me add this. I think that the reason y'all are hearing toxic masculinity is because it's the in thing right now. Y'all remember trauma bonding used to be the in thing, and everybody was like, oh, we're trauma bonding. And they had no idea what it meant. Like, people thought it meant I have a trauma, you have a trauma, and we bond. And that's not even what it means. So I think that because psychology and therapy and counseling and mental health is becoming more talked about like all the time, that's why people are throwing out these labels, because the things that y'all are describing is not even the definition of toxic masculinity.
True.
Like, a man being a man, there's nothing toxic about that.
Right. But by their definition, they're saying they calling them harmful, because they tricky with this. Refers to a set of harmful and restrictive social norms. So restricting a man from being soft. I don't know how to change a tire. I don't know how to stand up and say, well, we're not doing that. I can't upset and tell my woman or my wife, no. I don't think that's a good idea.
I think I read it a little bit differently, or maybe I just have read more because that's just kind of like what I do for like a living, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not necessarily about a man saying no or a man saying these are the rules at the house. It's more of aggression and violence. That's what makes it toxic masculinity. It's the intimidation, so like
toward the woman, or just in general?
Toward the woman. And in general. I think it's both. So like, if you have a man out here that's like running around like raw, beating people up, they would consider that toxic masculinity. And so one of the ways that they're saying toxic masculinity is developed is because they're not allowed to express their feelings. They're not allowed to express their feelings would be that, like, fitting them into those characteristics that you was talking about. The restrictive characteristics is like men don't cry, boys will be boys, those types of things. And I don't know. Like, I don't think that's cool.
No, because I'm gonna be honest. I think there's here's my favorite word: balance.
Okay.
As a man, there are a different set of responsibilities that are going to be set upon you. Things that you're going to be expected to do, and you really need to be capable of doing that. Mm-hmm. And to be capable of doing that, you do not need to be a quote unquote crybaby where you cry at every turn. You cry when things don't go your way. I think there is an element of developing a certain level of resilience and ability to have a high EQ, and that starts very early. Okay. And for men, it's just plain and simple. It's going to be different for women. We're not wired the same. And, I know some feminists will disagree. There are things that men are equipped to do that women are not the first in line to do. Not saying that they couldn't do it, because there's anomalies everywhere, and I wouldn't stop them from trying to do it if they wanted to. But if you just look at it from a plain logical standpoint, okay, the woman is better at that than a man is better than at that thing, and then a man is better at something or better equipped just by biology and natural wiring. He's better suited for that task or those duties. And I think this fight for equality, which I think is a problem, because it ain't about equality, it's about equity. So do you have equity in the things that are important to you? Just like instead of just saying we're equal, because two things that are not the same can't be completely equal, in my opinion.
Sure. Hold on. Let me catch up the comments. I don't know who this person is, but hi, Facebook user. Don't they? Hi.
Is that Mr. Phillips?
I guess.
Does that name ring a bell, Doc?
It's not, but that don't mean nothing. I'm better with faces.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about right there.
Okay.
Alexis says, adding to that point, Doc, I asked if toxic femininity exists because I agree that toxic masculinity doesn't. I truly believe that I Hate Men train made that up. Yes.
I don't disagree. I think that she said, may I add that I'm not a pick me? That is funny, because that would be what somebody would say. But I don't disagree. I just think that people like labels, and I think people like to see themselves published in articles and like to say that they've coined a term, and that's where it came from.
See, this is the problem. First, we got toxic masculinity. Now, if you're a woman that says, no, I think the provision, protection, and the problem solving and procreation of a man within my life, the influence in my life, over my life, I like that. And I think it's proper, and I think it's in order and in line. Oh, you'll pick me. Really? Really, where do we come? Not that, well, okay, what's good for you, girl? That's good for you. We can't go there. You see what I'm saying? A man that sets boundaries and says what because a woman will say, I want to be led. And then as soon as he get the leading, he toxic. This is where the problem comes in. And then the toxic masculinity label incorporates that a man has to be more stoic with his emotions. He can't really succumb to his emotions. And so it doesn't mean he doesn't feel them. It doesn't mean that because every human being has emotions. I mean, it's that, unless you're a psychopath, you have, some type of spectrum, because that exists as well. Some narcissists or something like that who just don't have those type of feelings. But, being in line on a normal platform, if a man sets these boundaries and standards for himself, then he should be able to do that without being called toxic. And I think it's just got rampant. And I don't know how we need to champion it. We need women to get up. We need these pick-me's to get up and start swinging back at some of these hyenas, as I've heard them being called before. Hyenas out here just ruining it for everybody. Ruining it. Let's read the comments. Alexis Butler says, yeah, I agree, because I'm not changing the tire. I'm gonna let the man have that one.
Amen.
Sounds like common sense to me.
Yeah.
Sounds like common.
I like that. Like, build something. Use your hands. Do you have a toolbox? Like, I like all that.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. So, from a cultural standpoint, do you think the toxic masculinity? See, that's the thing. I think. Well, let me ask the question. Do you think toxic masculinity is really culturally generated, and does it affect cultures differently, different cultures? Is it described, and does the definition change based on culture?
Absolutely. I think especially for the Black culture, a lot of these young women are being brought up without the male presence really being there, or the male presence really having a voice in the household. And that really makes a big, big difference. Mm-hmm. So when you grow up with mama or grandma running the show and you wonder why you have no man, you have no husband, you have no partner there with you, it's because look at how you were brought up. Look at what they had around them. Guess how many men they either ran off, or he's too toxic, or he wasn't man enough for me. Look at the outcome. So you have to ask yourself, honestly, what do I need to do to better position myself? And it's funny because you hear so many women say that they want a husband. Do they know how to treat that husband, though? Do they know how to make that man feel like the man? Do they know how to make that man feel like I'm number one in your life and I'm honored to be what you want me to be? It's too many times that the expectation is I need you to be that and accept all my flaws, accept everything that comes with me, but continue to be this kick-ass perfect man, right? So to me, culturally, yeah, absolutely. I see it all day.
I want to disagree with you so bad, but I don't. I want to be like, wait a minute, but no, you're right.
But that truth be hanging. It be heavy.
Why would you want to disagree?
But nah. Okay, y'all want to check?
But I know too many of them. I didn't talk to too many of them. It'd be like that. Sun Baby says, good evening, everyone. I think toxic masculinity is a thing. Back in my day, they called it being a bully. No, I think. I agree.
Yeah, because that's kind of like what I was saying was the definition.
Exactly. So it's really just a play on the title, because Sun Baby, if he wasn't on earlier, we did make the statement that because what toxic masculinity that they try to talk about really as what they describe it as, not by the psychology definition, but just society and the community. Really, it's just someone that's, if you're abusive person, then you're being abusive, or if you're a bully, being a bully, in that form. Then if you're an a-hole type person, if you have an a-hole type personality, you're just an a-hole. But that doesn't necessarily describe toxic masculinity, because the problem is just with that title, you have that group of women, I'm gonna call them hyenas, that jump in and say you're being toxic because you're setting boundaries. You're setting standards. You have principles that you stand on, and you won't bend on them for anyone. And so I think that's where we come in. And I ain't gonna say a consensus, but for myself, that's where the disconnect is, and why I challenge even when they talk about toxic masculinity. One, they're not talking about it by the medical definition, and I'm really attacking just those who frivolously swing it around, and they're attacking real men who are being good men. I think by design, and trying to diminish that portion of men in our society and those practices.
Okay.
Alexis Butler says, "Do you have a toolbox?" My list of date questions.
Absolutely.
No, for real. Because do you know how to fix something?
Absolutely. What's your favorite brand? No.
Do you know your way around Home Depot?
I'm a craftsman guy myself.
Home Depot. No, I'm sorry. Some Baby says, as far as a man not being present, it's the man's fault. Stop sleeping with any and everything.
I ain't mad at it.
I'm not mad. I'm not mad at it, but no, it's not. I tend to agree, but also you have to understand and realize you have some toxic women out here that will utilize that child as a control or a check to keep this man at bay. And when a man gets frustrated or a man loses it, where it's just like, I love my child, I love my kid, but I gotta wait till they reach a certain age where I could really build that rapport with them so they can wake up and understand. I have personal friends of mine that, say that. My mom kept me away from my father. And once I got older and was able to have that relationship where my father explained to me, I couldn't deal with the situation because I was going to end up doing something that took me away from you, period. And as a young man growing up, you didn't understand that because you're taught to believe everything that your mama tells you, right? But then when you grow up and you understand, like, well, damn, wait a minute. After daddy left, mama stayed single. Yeah, it was guys that wanted to entertain her or whatever the case may have been, but mama never remarried. Why is that? That's the questions that I think we really, especially younger people, we really need to ask, because it's too often that we want to sit there and say, well, daddy wasn't around because he was a deadbeat. Nah, it's a reason. I don't know too many men that just don't want to be a part of that kid's life. It's for a reason, usually, to be honest.
There are exceptions to that, though. There are people who are just losers, and
yeah, of course. Okay. But then that statement, you got to turn it around on the women. Why you choosing the? Yeah, why you choosing
Maybe
the?
She didn't know.
Oh, come on, you do know. You know, you're gonna have a clue of what a man is about before you engage with him in the sexual activity. You're gonna know what this man characteristic about or what he's showing you.
People just
and then plus y'all got plenty of methods anyway. There's a thing called birth control. There's a thing called condoms. There's a thing called IED. It's a bunch of different preventative methods that women can use.
I'm going to interject right here. Mrs. Sunbaby, you said but what's the last? You said as far as men not being present, it's the man's fault. Stop sleeping with any and everything.
Oh, this one? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to say this. I get that and I understand it. And that even goes to even being, you do have a portion out there. Like the men that were influential in my life, the statement was made. Did you sleep with the woman? Yes. But boy, don't you know that's your wife? As soon as you sleep with a woman, that's your wife and you're responsible for her. Mm. Also, I had, I know a gentleman, he ended up having, a slew of children, like kind of like 6, 7 kids with the woman. And the reason that was his wife is because his daddy made him marry her because she said he was the father of her child, but it came out that he wasn't. He said, "Daddy, I didn't get that woman pregnant. That's not my child." And he said, "Boy, she said you the daddy, and you finna marry that girl." And he had to be married to this woman for years. I even ended up having more kids with her than anything because at that time, it was deemed proper. You get somebody pregnant, you have to marry them. That woman lied. She knew she lied. You know why? Because he was the guy that she wanted. And then I'll end it by saying the reason we can't I understand we want to put a higher standard and requirements on men. And I would kind of tend to do that. I think we have a higher responsibility. We are the head, we are the leaders. So we really need to lead in those ways. But we can't be so foolish in our desire to be that we just ignore that there are women. If it wasn't rape, that woman laid her ass down too. And yes, she needs to carry some responsibility for her choices and her decisions to get with a man. So we're not just going to blanket it and put it on men solely. Now, as men, we'll check one another and we'll hold ourselves to a higher standard. But by no means do we just completely ignore the fact that a woman has done that and that women slip babies on men. You know how I know they do that? Because it was done to me. Have a conversation. Hey, now I take responsibility because like you said, I should be using protection. Could be, shouldn't be sleeping around if you don't want no kids. But humor me. If you sit down with someone that you care about and you deem is sensible, and you say, hey, well, we don't want to have kids. Are you on birth control? Yes, I'm on birth control. And they lie. I'm responsible. I should double check. I should be leery of the person that I care about and I think cares about me, and they got me. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, I take responsibility. But then if they are treacherous mean, lying, conniving, thieving individual, I'm supposed to just stay. I didn't stay. So if you want to call me a deadbeat, whatever, bring it on. Because me and the Most High know. And when I tell you I fought my ass off to be in my kid's life, and I was denied that.
Mm-hmm.
Denied it. Had to go to court, had to fight, come on. So my perspective is going to be influenced because I have, firsthand experience on like being a man, wanting to be. There was nothing more that I wanted to do would be a good father. That would used to be a daily, everyday prayer. That's all I wanted to be. Good husband, good father, and a good man. I don't ask for those things anymore because I'm all of those already. I had to learn that. So I'm gonna always listen to it case by case, Mr. Sun Baby. I definitely respect your position because it sounds like you're a man that set those type of principles and standards in your life, and I'd rather have that than not. So that's just my perspective on that. I just don't want to just bring the hammer down on men and not at least tell the women, like, listen, you got a hand in that too, so you need to act responsibly as well. So we both need to do that because we're both responsible.
Right.
In my opinion. Okay, I went on a tangent. I apologize.
Did? Okay, come on. Next comment.
So some baby said, it's sad that, okay, now what was his next comment?
Yep, this was this one. And then here we go.
Said, I believe in people. He said, I believe in people show you who they are early, but because they have a slamming body and a pretty face, instead of leaving, we stay. Then the baby is made. Then we use the excuse to just, I think, cave or give in. I think. Oh, the excuse. Excuse I just gave.
There you go.
Gotcha. Hey, I guess you can say that. I'll take that. I'll take that. If that's how you feel about it. Understood. No excuses. People say, well, I was young. Man, I didn't know. I didn't even know what I didn't know. The way I'm speaking now and being able to express and understand relationship, looking at what we call red flags or people's tendencies, I didn't even have a concept of that, man. Not even at all at then. And that's just a fact. But I'll receive that. You seem like a good brother. So I think you're assuming most are like you. So you say, sorry, my brother, it's a ton of suckers out there. That's true. That's true. Well, see, I think it's a ton of good men out there who try to do right because that's how I was raised. You with a woman, you stay with the woman. So that's why I endured and went through so much. But that was silly. What I should have done is never mess with it in the first place. Listen to my grandmother when she's like, Eric, those people, I don't know about so and so and so. And I was like, I read her. Can't judge somebody based on this and that. Learn it. So I listen. I needed you around, son, baby, because you mentioned back in your day. So it might have been a little older than mine. So I could have used you, brother. Could have used you. Somebody said he sounds stupid. He said, I love my daddy, my hero, but he couldn't make me get married at gunpoint. Oh, that guy? Yeah, I don't know. I know one thing. It made that one of the most harsh, hard, bitter human beings that I'd ever met. Yeah. And that's the truth. I was like, because when I heard the story, I was like, wow. But it was a different time. Different decisions was made. You know what I'm saying? Hoppo. I just can't get started. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with something beat up. That was just kind of the concept. The stepdaddy giving the 15-year-old girl to this 30-something-year-old man. She's been ruined twice. It was just a different time, different mentality. You know what I mean?
I love that movie.
Man, it's hard for me to watch. Alexis Butler says, he's not lying. Hey, that's my bird right there. She's Mr. Sun Baby. She telling you, I ain't making no excuses. I'm telling facts of the story, brother. Fought hard. Alexis and is like, you're a great dad. Thank you, sweetie. I appreciate that. I try. Oh yeah. See, he acknowledged he didn't see some things and he knows some things. And to be quite honest, son, baby, even before I read your your answer, though I feel like they're laden with some buckshot, I'm used to that. I was raised by my grandfather, like old school type mentalities. Those are the men that I admired and held in high regard and really tried to mimic some of their actions. Now, this wasn't my father. My father was killed early in my life when I was around 9. Don't know what difference it would have made because he was a different type cat. You know what I'm saying? Ron, if you seen Superfly, Ron O'Neal, that was my dad. I'm talking about the Cadillac, the coat, the nails, the hair. Yeah, y'all watch him out. Don't say nothing about my daddy because he's my hero. We'll talk about that on another show. He definitely is my hero. But and I didn't get to meet him. Was around him a lot. But he's probably one of the most influential people in my life. Anyway, he said, "Young brother, I'm 70 years old." He said, "I've never met a woman that I didn't know who she was after a week." He said, "Stayed with some because of eye candy or lust, so I had to deal with the outcome." Indeed, sir. Indeed, sir. He said, "No, I respect your perspective. It's just a conversation." Absolutely, sir.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate you being on here and bringing that a different insight and your lived experiences. A lot of people can glean a lot from that. Indeed. So I kind of snatched the mic and ran to the corner of the stage. Doc, I'm going to sit back for a second, let you and Justin kind of work some things out.
I wanted to propose a question to Doc. Why do you think that it's so difficult for some women to admit that they're wrong?
I don't even think that's a woman specific thing. I think it's a human thing. No one wants to be the reason that they're in their own way. I think it's just easier for people to blame this person or blame this situation or use this as an excuse versus to say like, "Ooh, it was me this whole time." Like that just takes a level of maturity that a lot of people don't have. And I know some people who will like say, "Oh, it was me, but we ain't got to tell nobody." And like they'll have a conversation with their person or like they homegirl, their best friend or whoever, and get some straightening and we're gonna talk about it. But then to the world, it's like, no, we're doing this. You know what I mean? So I think it's just embarrassing and it takes a level of maturity that people just don't have.
And you said you feel like that's just human nature? Because I know a lot of men that are stand-up guys. Yeah, because I know a lot of men that are stand-up guys that'll take it on the chin and just be like, "Look, I was wrong. I, made a mistake or I misjudged," whatever the case, and take it on the chin. But it's very few between when you hear a woman, like you said, they may do it with their girlfriends or whatever, but wouldn't you want to encourage that to be done with your significant other?
That's the key right there, Doc.
So I just realized, Mr. Justin, like, you don't know me. Of course I would encourage them to do that with their significant other. Like I'm team, like you have to be able to say, "I messed up." Like you have to. Nobody's ever going to want to continue to be in relationship or have conversation with you if you never admit that you're wrong. So yes, I do encourage that. And I don't know why it's so difficult other than it's embarrassing.
Man, and
then you got to think like my perspective comes a lot from like, so I have my group of friends and then I have all these sessions that I have, right? And so when I'm thinking about the people that I'm talking to, the people that I'm speaking with, a lot of them, male and female, don't want to admit, you know what I mean? So that's why I say it that way. I do know men who will say, "Oops, my bad. Yep, what's the solution?" I know women who will do the same, but for me, it's about 50-50. I don't see it as just a woman thing. But I have the beauty of seeing behind the curtain to men and women.
Right. You know what, Doc? The hard thing is, and I'm speaking, Sun Baby says, I agree with Doc.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Mr. B. Sutter III said, "Good evening, family. Good evening."
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
And Alexis Butler says, "I'm good at taking accountability, I think."
It's the "I think" for me.
And Mr. Sunbaby says, "I do agree. It's harder for women for one reason only: when women don't own their mistakes." Says eye rolling when men don't. You may take take a black eye.
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you, son baby, because I was just gonna say with women, the thing is, I think most men, if you lay it out in their face and they're caught, eventually they're gonna be like, I. And then now how they respond, some gonna run, hide, they don't want to face they want to face the consequences, or they'll try to make some excuses and be like, yeah, I did it, but but with women, and I didn't mean to lean in like it's just
because you did, like it got deep. Let me
listen back. But my experience with women, and I'm not just making this, I'm not trying to, I love women. Man, black women, we can't make it without them. We really need you. We really do. I'm fighting for you. I mean, a part of the premise of this show is that, hey, let's talk about it. Let's come on to one. It's safe to go on and admit, okay, I was wrong. I know I was, and we're going to be all right. We're going to get it straightened out. But here's the deal. Even the cognitive dissonance in women is, it's galactic level crazy. Galactic level. I mean, when faced with facts, figures, proof, and new information that totally shows you what you are doing is wrong, you were wrong, you were caught, they still will not face that. It's phenomenal. It's they do it so good, it's scary.
I don't know those women, but maybe they should go to LatoyaTheTherapist.com and we could talk about it, because if you wrong, you wrong. Now, we said earlier, women have to be a safe place for men to be compassionate and be soft and be in their feelings. I think the same remains true for women. You want to tell me I'm wrong, but you want to like yell and throw the paper in my face, then I'm probably like stuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, be a safe place for me to say I'm wrong, I messed up. And then maybe I want to say it more often.
I agree with you 100% there, man. If, delivery does matter.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's something I personally had to work on. I'm like, okay, I'm a sizable person, so I know even if I might not even be thinking that I'm screaming, but if I raise my voice, and that might put a little bit of intimidation on a person. So I will adopt to sitting down, purposely lowering my voice, and I had to do that even in professional circles.
Same.
So and say and really say, okay, this is what we need to discuss. And even in those moments, it's almost worse because it'll almost make your head pop off. I've been so infuriated. It was because it was like what they call it, the unmitigated gall. Like, do you really think you must think I'm retarded. You trying to do something to me. You trying to make me. And but to my man, son baby's credit, he's like, you need to know this, and you need to find this out in a week, and you don't need to be fooling with him at all. Speaking of son baby, he says the intellect. He said, what about these young jokers that can't stay out of the other women's pants, but are married and tell the lie? I'm just being a man. Man, I think hey, son baby, he say, isn't that the same thing? I think it's a different thing because I don't even understand their concept. Like, that's just matter of fact. I think that's reverse psychology. If you're gonna have these excuses to have hot girl summers, or I think he may be talking about guys that are saying I'm an alpha male guy and I can have a side chick, or I can be able to do that.
But it's a whole group of men. Y'all, I'm just going to go and say it. They think because they paying for everything, they can sleep with everything. Y'all know they exist because y'all go to the barbershop with them. They think, well, I'm paying all the bills and the lights is on and you shopping and you eating good, so I'm going to have me a little something on the side. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all be at the barbershop. Y'all know.
There's some men that operate in that way.
That's the thing.
But I think this is the thing. In some baby's generation, they had a whole nother family and they didn't handle it. They kept the lights on and the garden was tilled in the back. It wasn't a lot of bread around.
Except the garden was tilled in the back.
Garden for
me. You know what I'm saying? I'm serious, man. The greens back there. had okra, and then they had not the mustard and the collards back there. You know, you got peas. Everybody gonna eat. It's gonna be black-eyed peas, 2 big pecan trees. But he still got he still got that little boy he treat real nice when he come down. You know, that's been going on for centuries. You know what I mean? Now, to do it as openly and whatnot, I think that's just the evolution of different mentalities, especially with the feminine out. And I'm not blaming this on the feminist movement, but it definitely opened up the door to think differently when it came to the topic of relationships, the structure of those relationships, and how they will function within those relationships.
I'm with that.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I don't know if that's, I think I definitely noticed some to say that's toxic masculinity, you know. And then, you know, there's always a demographic of women. And I've known a woman that she was like, I wasn't upset to him till he let it come home. Like if somebody can walk up on me, yeah, if somebody can walk up on me and say something, I'll be like, you couldn't even keep it. You couldn't keep it.
Yeah, like
keep it out of my face. Now I gotta address it. I was trying to let you do your thing, as long as you came home on time, you took care of what you're supposed to take care of. Because you can only control what you control. So to some baby's point, I think it's about the vetting. He said something very key. It's about the vetting in the beginning. Now I need some baby's detector. He said he know in a week what's going down. He said in a week you need to know, man. You need to know.
They spent every day together.
Yeah, so we coming down to the last 10 minutes. Anybody got any interjections on that?
Stop cheating on people. And just because you pay the rent don't mean you could cheat. That does not mean that.
But I mean, but what are the, before I say something, let me see what some baby talking about. Some baby be busting me across my skull. He said that goes back to what Doc says. It's a human thing because just like men have a different family and women have the milkman's baby.
Okay.
See, now me and some baby, we okay.
I ain't mad at it.
Yeah.
Sis got tired of the other family. So when the milkman came, she was like, "Hello, sir. What's good?" I'm not mad at it.
Yeah. But that, I mean, see, that's why it gets so difficult. You can't point. This is the fact that I would definitely like everyone. You can't just point the finger in one direction because you got men who are out here raising kids and have kids. Not though. I ain't talking about stepfathers who have made it a conscious decision to take on that responsibility. I'm talking about men that are raising children they think that are theirs, only to find out that they're not. And we don't hear about it a lot, but many of those things have unfold very tragically. Mm-hmm. Like men, and I'm not talking about man was violent and killed people. It was more like the man ended up killing himself. Mm. And this was and this was some time ago that I read about this, the report and the study. But this crossed cultural lines. It was more prevalent with the white men. They couldn't handle it. They just. But I'm talking about all cultures. This has occurred, and they thought there was their children, and it would be some medical circumstance or something like that would reveal it. And actually, me and my daughter just watched a video of a listen. I'm just going to say it very quickly because we're down to the last 7 minutes. Mixed young lady. Her dad is white, mother's white. The woman had the baby. The baby got curly. You know she's mixed, but she's in a white Jewish family. They raised her as if the whole family. They just raised her as if no. I had a great uncle Louis who was Italian, who was olive, and that's where she gets her hair and her color from. And they really tried to sell this, but this girl made a documentary where she found out who the real father was. She kind of pressed her mother, And then the dad, he almost didn't want to talk about it. He was kind of even upset because the mom and her dad, who she knew to be her father, they got divorced. And it was, and the mother, even then, it was like pulling teeth to get her mother to our point. It was crazy. And this is her daughter. She's like, I know there's something going on. I'm not a white Jewish girl who just has really dark olive skin. I'm a black person. How is this happening? And the whole family, I talk about the grandparents, they just act like it came from generations down. It's crazy how
that is insane. What's the name of that? I feel like I've heard this story.
Alexis, do you remember the name of that? If you're still on, I don't know. I can't think of it, but I'll get it to you, Doc. He said, "Stop trying to hum and listen. People, men and women, telling themselves, yeah, and listen, trying to hump." He said, "Stop trying to hump." She says, "So toxic femininity do exist."
I think if toxic masculinity exists, and so does toxic femininity.
I think trash. I think unresponsible, accountable people with bad intentions, violent or tendencies, they exist, and they in relationships with people, and they exact that type of attitude and disposition. But I think a man that's putting his foot down, setting standards and boundaries, and principles that are governing God, his life, and those within his life, that's not toxic masculinity. That's just being a man, and I think being a good provider, a good protector, problem solver. I think that might be.
For me, I guess my last words, we're gonna wrap it up. Follow us on all social media. Thank you for being here. We're super excited, Mr. Justin, to have you as a guest. Now, my final thoughts are this. I think that people, when we enter into relationships, I think we have to really think about what it is that we want and be honest and realistic with ourselves. Because I know manly man, take out the trash, build this and have a toolbox. I know that man is going to have an opinion about how we have our life. And so if I'm saying that I want all of these things, I have to be okay with him having an opinion. Him having an opinion and setting boundaries does not make him toxic. But you got to know what you want. If you don't want a strong man, it's some brothers out there to get that instead. Let's not label the strong men so that they don't feel appreciated. Those are my final thoughts. So that they don't.
Justin, you got any final last words?
I would just say for men and women. Yeah, I was going to say for men and women both, just be careful of who you selecting. Be careful of who you allow to see and who you give your energy to. Understand how to read people. Understand the a-holes when they're and anything that we do in regards to relationship, it always comes with a risk. So make sure that they're worth the gamble, I would say.
Okay. All right. Hey, I want to thank our viewers. Man, thank you so much for being here. We really do appreciate it. I don't want you to think we take that lightly. We really, really don't. Being active in the comment box, posing questions. Hey, welcome, Sun Baby. We really appreciate your input, especially your knowledge and experience, perspective that gives us things to think. That's something that's important to us here is we want to invoke thought, differing positions, ideas, and concepts on a wide variety of topics. So just because they may differ, again, doesn't make them right or wrong, good or bad. It simply just makes them different. And when we can at least have an ear to hear different views on things, then we think we're hoping that can generate some understanding. And when we understand one another, that brings us closer together. And that just makes us better all around, individually and collectively. So here's the perspective. I want to thank you all for joining us. We'll be back next week, Thursday, 8:30, and we'll see you then.